You're watching East End News on LTV, East Hampton Town's public access television provider. And now it's time to sit down with the supervisor, Kathee Burke-Gonzalez.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to East End News on LTV, where we are sitting with East Hampton Town Supervisor Kathee Burke-Gonzalez for a monthly segment. Kathee, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chrissy. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to have a conversation with you today.
Yeah, we were just saying we've known each other for about 10 years now, and a lot's happened in 10 years and continues to happen.
Yeah, you were covering the beat of the spring school board back in the day, and that's where we first met.
So today I think we're going to talk about nonprofits and the role of nonprofit organizations in our town, because I know that there are quite a few groups sort of not a governmental agency, but a community group.
Right.
Of all different stripes and needs, serving all different stripes and needs. So let's chat about some nonprofits.
Sure. So I appreciate having this conversation. So right now it's September 29th. Tomorrow, September 30th, I'm going to be releasing the 2026 budget, the tentative budget, and it's in some circles it's called the Supervisor's budget, although I've taken a more collaborative approach and I've had input from my colleagues, and like the salaries and benefits, that's a fixed cost. We have contracts with our town staff, but there is some funding where there's some discretion where we have the ability to support our not-for-profit partners, and we really couldn't do the work without their assistance.
Are you referring to like the concept of a public-private partnership, informally or formally? Like, tell me about that.
It depends on the organization. For instance, we support our hardworking families, right? So and quality childcare is so critical. So we give grant funding to Eleanor Whitmore's Early Child Care Center. We give funding for Project Most. In fact, we just gave an emergency grant of $75,000 for their Montauk child care program because they had missed the grant cycle last year and realized they needed to just close it up a little bit. So it's things like that. We also support projects that support the arts, like our fabulous variety show, who does a lot of events here, right, and works with, this more school-age children, as well as Neopolitical Cowgirls. Kate Muse got a program, and she's worked with middle school and high school students. It's programs like that, or Montauk Youth gets support. Then we also help with, there's a group in town called RSVP, and they actually, they're volunteers, and they call seniors that may be shut in so that they have some social contact and make sure it's kind of a wellness check and just catch up with things.
Are they new?
No, they've been around. I've been on the board 12 years, and we've been giving funding for them for that period of time.
Well, they need to get that message out there. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then there's programs like the food pantries, right? For the East Hampton Food Pantry, we, they use space on the town hall campus, and they run their program there on Tuesdays is when the collection day is, and we pay for their utilities. Or we give a donation to the Montauk Food Pantry and the Springs Food Pantry, which we're really seeing in Springs. I was having a conversation with Holly Wheaton. The numbers are going through the roof. We had, because I knew the budget was going to be coming out, and there are certain organizations that we give, a larger, more sizable contribution to. I had asked them to do town board presentations during the work session so community members could be more familiar with their work. And, I had said to Holly, please come and talk about the Springs Food Pantry, because I pass that line every Wednesday night when I go home. And she said after the presentation she did at the work session, 200 more people showed up because, they're having issues making it, work from paycheck to paycheck. But hopefully also the donations are starting to come in. And if I could give a plug for them, they've got their big chowder, contest coming up. So folks should really support that. And then the Montauk Nutrition Program. So the town runs a nutrition program at the senior center where we have a hot meal 5 days a week. The Montauk program was actually started by the community church, and now it's in the Montauk Playhouse, and the town subsidizes that. So last year, it was $140,000 that we had in a grant funding that we gave to the organization. This year, it's going up $10,000 because the cost of food is going up. So, so some of those programs, they're standalone programs, but, we lend our support where we can.
Are there any restrictions or guidelines the town has to follow in examining who to give to and who, how much? How do you arrive at those decisions?
So what happens is we send out applications in probably late May, early June, and the application is due by the end of June. That's done by the Human Services Department under the director, Diane Patrizio. And there's a questionnaire that they fill out with, indicators of, really, they ask for the amount that they're looking for. And then typically, it used to be the supervisor would decide, but like I said, it's taken a more collaborative approach, and the board looked at, each one and where it made sense for us, where we thought we needed to, bump it up a little because for one reason or another, like food pantries and nutrition programs, we know because we go to the grocery store every week, the costs are going up. So that was, understandable. And then, for instance, with Project Most, we were giving $115,000 this year for their after-school programs and their camps that they run. But then they just took on this whole new project in July of 2024, where they took on the Montauk Child Care Program, and they take little ones starting at 6 weeks old.
Believe that.
Yeah. So, and you need a lot of staffing to run a program like that. So we gave a $75,000 emergency grant this year, and we'll be looking to contribute the same amount in 2026. And can I just say, talking about the little ones, I had the pleasure of going over to Eleanor Whitmore last week or the week before to meet they've started a 1-year-old and up program, and went over there, and I was a little rusty with my peekaboo, but it came back, and really had a chance to meet these little ones, and in such a short period of time, they have bonded with the folks, with the caregivers at Eleanor Whitmore. It was really a joy to see.
Among the groups you also support are East End Hospice and Fighting Chance. What kind of relationship do you have with these groups and what they're providing to the community?
So, they came to us over that. They're more recent that we've been making contributions to. They play such a vital role in our community, and we do have overlap with them. This time of year, I guess the first health fair that they do at St. Luke's starts.
This Friday.
This Friday.
October 3rd.
So we always have staff from Human Services there, always our Spanish-speaking case manager, Liliana Rodriguez. So she gets to, she works with these organizations more closely than, say, like a town board member would. But, we want to support their efforts, and, it's not a lot of money that we give them, but it is, funding. And I guess the way the grant world works, it's really important when you're going for other grants from other organizations or from the state to demonstrate that you get support from your local municipality. So it helps, it brings more money into the organization. So it's important to support.
So if I'm understanding that correctly, grassroots support, like from the town level or from local community members, that helps an organization actually attract even more?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because if you put the faith in, I'm sure here at LTV, you write grants. In fact, the town we pass the money that comes through Altice to LTV. In 2025, we've given LTV a $750,000 grant, and that helps keep the two channels on the air. And I was really excited to see that we're back at 20 and 22.
20 and 22.
Because 1310 was a challenge. It was a bridge too far, right?
Did not roll off the tongue as easily as Channel 20 and 22.
Right.
So I think we're happy about that too.
Yes.
So are there other, we've talked about the food pantries and some healthcare adjacent groups, educational programs. Are there any other grassroots level, you wanted to mention Change Hampton, tell us about Change Hampton.
So Change Hampton and Rewild, which is also kind of works in that space. You're getting a preview of the town budget. I've put $30,000 in there to be able to start more of an education campaign on alerting community members about sustainable landscaping. If you've been to Town Hall, you see the incredible pollinator gardens that we have and the meadows that are there. And it's to educate folks that you don't need these big mammoth green lawns, right? And if you plant with native plants, you don't need pesticides, you don't need irrigation, you're going to attract, pollinators and, insects and things that, we need the biodiversity, right? So I think we've done a great job educating and kind of creating demand, because you've seen that Whitmore's opened up a special division for native plants, because the public now is going to, and Whitendale's carries native plants, where you can go in and you can purchase native plants, and there needs to be, more education there, because it's just better for the planet. And so Change Hampton is the one that got us aware. They're going to be coming back in October to do a town board work session, because they want to continue to grow the projects that they're doing on our campus. But then you've also got Rewild, which is a group that's really energized our high school and college age students. And I just, a couple of us just went to the graduation. They put in, I think, 1,800 hours of community service, pulling mugwort and planting gardens. And they did a garden at Windmill Village with the seniors. And, I was there a couple of weeks ago, and they were pulling on Len's Green's, coat and saying, hey, what about if we did a garden at Eastville Historical Society? So that's, is there a grant available for that? And they've got, gardens at the high school. They did one at Longhouse.
I think they did one at the Springs School too, right?
Yeah. So, it's just, yes, they did. Yeah. So it's just, that's, they're a not-for-profit partner where we're not giving them grant funding per se. We're paying for their insurance, in order to be able to, they've gotten grant funding on their own. They've also gotten a lot of donations, and folks have volunteered their time.
So we are coming up on budget season, town budget, and like we said, the first draft is due any moment, right?
Right.
What goes into preparing a town budget? I know there's got to be a lot of rising costs and demands and fixed costs and the nice to have things
Right.
versus the need to have things. How do you arrive at a town budget?
So the budget starts, but the department heads start plugging in numbers in July. So it's really, there's a long lead time for this. So they look at, the current budget, the adopted budget for 2025, for instance. They look at what's been spent to date and to see, and it's broken down into, many lines for each department, whether it's salaries and benefits and equipment and telephone and subcontractor and, conferences and things like that. So they put in what they think is the best picture for their individual department. And that all gets pulled together, and then we start having one-on-one meetings with finance. It's Becky Hansen, our town administrator, as well as Neji Valera, who's our deputy budget director. And we go through with the department head and with the liaison to that department, because every department has a liaison, someone from the town board that they interact with, more on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week, depending on the department. And we look at the kind of percent change of what they're looking for in 26 versus 25, and kind of go down if there's, are there staffing levels? Is it where they want to be? Do they need to add more staff? Are they looking for promotions for folks in their department, or merit raises, which is something that's in their contracts, the CSCA contract. So we do that. It takes all of probably the month of August, because we devote quite a bit of time to each department to go through that. And then I sit down with with Becky, and we go through, okay, so this is what Buildings and Grounds Department Head asked for, this is what the town attorney asked for. Like, what makes sense, is this gonna work for us? And then we get all those numbers, and then we also, then Diane, as part of the Human Services budget, has gotten all the grant applications. And this is what folks in the community that run not-for-profits are looking for. And then it's kind of like, okay, what can we afford? Like, what can't we afford to live without, really? And what is, okay, well, maybe if there is space for that program, we'll see. But so that budget gets collated, and then there's also a budget message that's written by the supervisor that goes in the front of that. The budget is 303 pages, because I've been through it several times. And, and then I've talked to town board members and made sure that they were comfortable with the promotions, the merits, the salary increases and things like that. Because not everyone that works for the town is contractual, right? Some of them folks are appointed. So we kind of go through it, and it's a process that takes like another month. So August is meeting with department heads, and then September is trying to coalesce the budget to come to what we think is really right for us. And, I've said it since my school board days, is that the budget is really, it's a reflection of what the community values. It really defines who we are as a community, who we support, right? And, we've made an effort over the last several years to make sure that we're paying our town staff. We've given them fair contracts, and because we know how expensive it is to live here, the cost of housing and food and fuel and whatnot. So that's really important. We've also, over the last year or so, introduced a couple of different policies. We now have paid family leave. We've never had that before, so we give 12 weeks for folks that are the mom or dad or whatever that are, so they get 12 weeks off to bond with their child and help with get the family assimilated. We also do a flex policy. Some folks, they have young kids. It may be helpful for them to log in and work a couple hours from home before they come to the office. And then we have remote work, because in some cases, that works depending on the department. So, all of that kind of gets figured in, and then the budget gets posted tomorrow on September 30th, and then we bring it to work session, to the 3 work sessions that we have scheduled for October. We get more input from community, from town board members, because a lot of times people don't really wrap their heads around it until all of a sudden they see this document and they're like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot to ask for. And then we decide whether that's something we can afford and we can move forward with.
When does the final budget have to be, when does it have to be set? When do you have to vote?
So we have to have a public hearing. So we notice it for public hearing in the beginning of November, and we hold the hearing, I guess, the 3rd week in November, and then we adopt. So, and then that's it. It's set. It's one of the biggest responsibilities a supervisor has, is to set the budget for the following year.
Kathee, can you tell us a little bit more about the budget proposal that is about to come out?
So, sure. So our current budget is $103 million, and this is about $109 million. So it's a $6 billion increase. And that, accounts for salaries, health insurance is going up, pensions are going up. I mean, it's funny, there's a number that I throw out to people, and they're always kind of surprised at, of like, what do you think it costs us to keep our beaches clean and guarded in a year? It cost us $1.4 million in 2025. So we actually, and we were really fully staffed with lifeguards. I think we might have even been turning people away. So in the 2026 budget, we've budgeted about $1.37 million for lifeguards and staff to keep our beaches clean. I mean, that's a great deal of money, but when you think of the joy and the pleasure and, it brings, and it also, we've got such great summer programs for our kids, like the Nipper program and the Junior Lifeguard program and the cadet program. And we're giving kids, in many instances, their first job, right? We're teaching them responsibility. We're teaching them, they're getting a paycheck and how to manage money. And we're giving them mentorship because we have a tremendous team of lifeguards and ocean rescue guards that volunteer to help, on, junior lifeguard and nipper mornings and teaching these kids, and that they'll be, role models and for the rest of their lives, so.
That also, it occurs to me that, we have such an incredibly rich tourism industry out here too. I imagine that there might be a return on investment if you're investing over $1 million in beach maintenance and lifeguarding and the care and maintenance of the beaches. Like, is that a priority in an economic sense as well?
Well, we do have paid parking at 2 of our beaches. Kirk Park has paid parking, and so does Atlantic Beach. But those revenues certainly don't offset what it costs to, run our beach. And we always, we give free beach parking permits to residents, which every town on the East End can say.
Pivoting a little bit to another town initiative, East Hampton Town recently launched its own newsletter. Can you
Correct.
tell us a little bit about that newsletter and the impetus for making it happen?
Sure. So I had just a lot of folks reach out to me that said, the town board is doing a lot of great things, but nobody knows about it. Please, please, please do a quarterly newsletter. So we launched it in just before 4th of July of this summer. It's 4 pages. It gets mailed to homeowners. It's really the property owner that it gets mailed to. We mail about 20,000 pieces. And it's like, for the instance, the summer newsletter had, when do I need a special event permit? How to do a safe and code compliant beach fire. We had talked about the different recreation programs, what kind of wellness 60-plus programs are running at the senior center. So things like that, we educated on, we had just started a new a traffic pattern, with a traffic circle. So it gave information about that. So it was just kind of chock full of like things you need to know and phone numbers you might need to know. And then it had a QR code so that you could go to the website and find information for whatever was contained in the newsletter. And the fall newsletter is coming out before Columbus Day. And we've got a couple of initiatives coming up. One is we have Drug Take Back Day. So the dates for that, we have the free shredding event. We started it last year where, the truck shows up and folks can come up with like 4 bags of documents that they want to get rid of, and it's a great thing because otherwise you're schlepping it to Staples and you're paying for it. Here, it's free. We also have Stop Day coming up where you can dispose of, oil and paint and things that, may be collecting in your garage or in your basement. That's really not good for our environment. It's not good for our groundwater. So it's reminding folks when those dates are. So it has a little bit of like some of the celebrations that we're doing, reminding folks that we have a new program to modernize town government, OpenGov. So where you're supposed to be filing for applications for planning or zoning board or ARB or the, fire marshal's office or the building department. So it's chock full of information that folks need to know. And, we're really excited about the launch. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback on it. People seem to be appreciative.
Here's an open-ended question. Is there anything we didn't cover today with reference to nonprofits or town budget that would be helpful for the community to know?
I just think that, we are so blessed in our community to have so many talented, gifted people who want to give back, that are just so generous of spirit and time and volunteer for so many of the organizations that really make our town, tick.
Kathee, thank you so much for stopping by, and it was great to have you on the show. we'll see you again in a few weeks.
Yes, let's book October.
Sit down with the supervisor on LTV.
Thank you, Chrissy. Really appreciate it.